702.
Health and wellness.
25 minutes before 12 o'clock, time for our health and wellness feature. And today, on our health and wellness feature, we're discussing intermittent fasting. Is it something you've tried? A lot of people really swear by it, right? But beyond just weight management, research is uncovering surprising benefits for energy, for focus, even longevity. And some have said that it helps with weight and energy. Others say it clears their mind, and for a few people it even saves money on the grocery bill. So today we're talking to Simone Blignaut, who's a dietitian at Core Nutrition, to share some insights on why this way of eating has captured so much attention. So what are the effects of intermittent fasting, good and bad? Simone, thank you so much for joining us for this conversation. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
So people often think of intermittent fasting as just, you're skipping meals. But what's actually happening in the body when we do it? And why is it different from simply just eating less?
That's a great question because intermittent fasting has gained a lot of popularity. It's basically a structured way of not eating for around 12 to 24 hours at a time. So it's more about when we eat and not just about what we eat. There's kind of this metabolic shift that happens when we fast for longer than 12 hours, where your body starts using fat for energy instead of glucose for energy. So just to quickly take you through it, after you've eaten a meal, like 0 to 4 hours after you've eaten a meal, your body breaks it down to glucose, which is another word for sugar. And then this glucose starts increasing in your bloodstream. Insulin then rises because insulin helps take the sugar out of your bloodstream into your cells to be utilized for energy. Then at around 4 to 12 hours of not eating, your body uses more glycogen stores, which is your body's stored form of carbohydrates found in your muscle and your liver, and it uses this for energy. And then at around 12 hours after fasting, your glycogen stores become a little bit limited and insulin levels drops. Here, the body starts using fat and burning the fat for energy and producing ketones. So that's why we start burning a bit more fat, and it can help benefit with weight loss as well.
Okay, so normally we are often told about potential benefits of this kind of fasting, from weight loss, improved energy to longevity. But which of these are most strongly backed by evidence so far?
So we see a lot on weight loss, but also on the metabolic shifts that can happen. Research has shown that intermittent fasting can lead to a 3 to 8% reduction in body weight in just a few months. And important is that most of this comes from fat. So it's not just the scale that changes, but also the body composition, and it can also help your metabolic health. Intermittent fasting can improve your metabolic health in 3 key ways. So it makes your body more sensitive to insulin, which will in turn help stabilize your blood sugar levels. It encourages burning fat instead of storing it, which improves cholesterol. And it can also lower the strain on your blood vessels, helping to decrease blood pressure. So together, these shifts can dramatically lower the risk of diabetes and heart disease.
And then are there any, because we're talking about just broadly the effects here, is it only positive effects, or what are some of the downsides of intermittent fasting that some people may not be aware of?
So there's definitely some risks. And as a dietitian, we do look at individualizing and personalized diets, and we can't just recommend one type of diet for everyone. So while this might benefit people with metabolic conditions, cholesterol, obesity, as well as pre-diabetic or type 2 diabetic patients, for some patients, it might not be the best approach. For example, patients with type 1 diabetes that are also on insulin, because they might run the risk of having very low blood sugar levels, which can also be detrimental for their health, as well as for pregnant women, elderly people. Some athletes might also want to consider, can they train in their fed states? Is that realistic for them? And then another one that not a lot of people think about is the difference between men and women. So women's hormones are a lot more sensitive compared to men's hormones. And in some studies, it actually have shown that in our reproductive health, it can be affected by intermittent fasting. So in some animal studies, it has caused infertility in rats. And then in some human studies, it has also been shown that some women does experience some period irregularities when they do intermittent fasting as well.
Ah, okay. And then are there people that are not supposed to do it? So if you are sick or maybe you are pregnant, or like under what circumstances should you not even consider intermittent fasting?
So I think type 1 diabetics should probably not be doing it, as well as pregnant and breastfeeding women, just for safety. It's not that they can't do it, but they have a lot more risk when they do this type of diet pattern. And if any of those populations are interested in doing it, they really need the help of their full medical team, their doctor, a dietitian, to help support them in this and manage the risk factors.
Okay, got it. It's 19 minutes now before 12 o'clock. I've got some questions coming through, and I'll bring them up via the WhatsApp line. We'll go through some calls as well on 011 883 0702. So, what questions do you have around intermittent fasting? Have you tried it? Has it worked for you? What were the upsides? What were the downsides? If you've got questions, if you want to share just your experience about how it worked for you when you tried it, you can do so as well. Give us a call right now or send a WhatsApp voice note. Tried intermittent fasting. What are some of the effects that you've picked up, good or bad? What has been your experience? Maybe you're considering trying it and you've got questions that you want answered before you do. Let's start with your WhatsApps on 072 702 1702.
Clement, it's working, this thing of fasting. It's working. I'm on my third week of fasting. I only eat when it matters. When I see that it's time to eat, I eat. I can go 2 days, 3 days without food. Yeah, it's working.
Hi, Clement and your guest. My question is, does instant coffee with full cream milk break the fast?
Okay, so instant coffee with full cream milk. Does it break the fast? Okay. Simone, let's start with that.
Yes, it does. So milk is not just fats or protein, but any type of food can break the fast. So milk actually consists of carbohydrates, protein, and fats. So if we have milk in our coffee, it will definitely increase the blood sugar levels a little bit, and that will break that fasting period.
Okay, cool. And then there's another question here from Rochelle who says, please can you ask, can you drink water while intermittent fasting?
Yes, you can.
Okay, so nothing wrong with that. And
No.
then, I'm going to come back to some more questions. There's one that I wanted to ask.
Okay.
Are there any specific, you already told me about the health conditions where intermittent fasting would especially be potentially harmful. But, some people who probably want to use it to deal with maybe a specific health condition, other conditions could be...
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
So I was asking about some conditions. So some people say, maybe or they struggled with a particular condition and they've been wondering whether intermittent fasting could assist them. You've already told us about some conditions where, when you are not otherwise, maybe it's not wise, for instance, to get in fasting. From what you've observed, just as a dietitian, are there benefits that you have seen from people some testimonials of people who said, I also struggled with this condition and because of fasting, I was able to see the benefit?
So the three main ones is mostly the cholesterol, the blood pressure, and type 2 diabetics for people that's pre-diabetic. But I have also seen some changes in like mental clarity or people that has a little bit of mood disorders like depression, where it can also help. When we're fasting, it also reduces insulin and increases the production of ketones. And ketones is a more efficient and stable brain fuel. So the steadier the supply the less brain fog you will experience. And it can also help with mental clarity and focus as well.
Okay. And then, of course, food is such a big part of our family life, right? And social gatherings, birthdays, brides, Sunday lunches. What's your advice for someone who's practicing intermittent fasting, right? How can someone practice it and still take part in those moments without feeling left out or awkward? Is it best to bring your food in this case, or are there... Yeah, what advice do you have? Because I'm picking that a lot, where people say it's so difficult because everything you go to, there's just food everywhere. And it's very difficult for people to just stay the course.
Exactly. So I think that's a very important consideration, as one of the things that we do consider with being dietitians and with our clients is, will they be able to sustain the diet? Because if they cannot, it's not always the best approach for them. But some tips that I can give is, firstly, to plan your fasting windows around those times. Remember, it's more about when we eat and not just what, but calories do still matter. So if it was for weight loss that you are doing the intermittent fasting, being prepared and being knowing what to have in those situations is always a good thing. If you know you're going to go to a function where you're going to eat out at a restaurant and you're going to break your fast during that time, let's say it's brunch or over lunchtime, it's always good to look at the menu, see what options they have. Because when we are hungry or when we haven't eaten for a while and then we've got all these choices to choose from, that can also throw us off a little bit, because then we do want to choose the most delicious options that's on the menu and not just thinking about health.
Perfect. Okay. I've got some more questions here. One says, Clement, how long does she recommend people to fast for? How many hours of eating versus how many hours of fasting? Tobile also on the WhatsApp line says, Clement, I may have missed this, but please can you ask Simone to repeat again how she describes intermittent fasting? What do people normally do who are in this kind of fasting? Sorry if I missed it.
No problem. So the typical fasting window is from 16 hours fasting, 8 hours eating. For women, though, I would recommend starting with a smaller fasting period as our hormones are more sensitive, and then slowly building it up, but monitoring your menstrual cycle just to make sure that your reproductive hormones aren't put under a lot of stress with the fasting window. And then what fasting is, it's basically a structured way of not eating for around 12 to 24 hours at a time. After 12 hours of fasting, your body switches from using glycogen and glucose stores and starts using fat burning and ketone production. And then in around 16 to 24 hours, there's another thing that happens called autophagy, which is basically where your cells break down and reuses the old parts for making new healthy parts as well. And this can also reduce inflammation, improve cell function, and may actually even help us and protect us against diseases and aging.
Yeah. Another question is, Clement, can you do this kind of fasting when you're a long distance runner?
So that is where it also becomes a little bit tricky. When we are running, your body uses those glycogen stores at a much faster rate. So with athletes that do intermittent fasting, what I usually recommend is trying to do their training sessions or their races within their fed states. Personally, I don't think it's the best approach for long endurance runners like marathon runners, because your glycogen stores is your body's main fuel of energy during these races and during these runs. And we don't want to go into those races with depleted glycogen stores, which is basically one of the things that intermittent fasting does.
Okay, here's another WhatsApp voice note, the last one.
Clement and the lady, I do intermittent fasting. It's working. I started it just now. I started on the 2nd of this month. So from the 2nd until now, I've lost 7 kilograms. But what I do, the problem that I want assistance in, over weekends, I braai and then I drink alcohol and then I catch up again on fasting on Monday. So I eat only at 4 in the afternoon. If I don't eat eggs and meat, I can eat a meal only at 4. And then after that, I'll eat at 4 the following day. But now I want to check, are there any health implications with this thing of me celebrating on weekends and then going back again on Monday?
Okay, Simone?
I would be cautious trying to do it like this. When we are doing this, you are kind of binging on weekends and more under eating during the week, which is also not sustainable in the long term. And I think the reason for the need to celebrate, the need to overeat on the weekends is because of the over restriction in the week. I would try to get back to windows of like 16 hours fasting, 8 hours eating instead of longer fast, and see if that helps a little bit over the weekends as well.
Okay, and then for someone who's diabetic?
Depends on what type of diabetes they have. So if it's pre-diabetic or type 2 diabetes, it can definitely be beneficial. If they're type 1 diabetic and they're on insulin, they also need to be cautious because insulin drops your blood sugar levels even more. And if a diabetic's blood sugar levels goes too low, they can also go into hypoglycemic coma. So if they did want to do this type of intermittent fasting diet pattern, they would need to consult with both their diabetic doctor and their dietitian.
Yeah. All right. Simone Blignaut, dietitian at Core Nutrition. Thank you so much for guiding through this important conversation.